Here's to whiskey kisses, the peaty taste of sin.
Greetings, whiskey folk, and welcome back to Drinking Out Loud. My name is Adam Bradshaw, and I am here today to introduce the Highland Queen Majesty 14-year-old single malt Scotch whiskey. And this is going to be my opinion, my little mini review, but it's also going to be an introduction to our Whiskey Club members here in Victoria who get to come and try this one for free at the Strath on Douglas Street. So, yeah, this is a whiskey which I was frankly offered for the store several years ago now, tried to buy for the store, and the warehouse never sent it, and then it said it didn't exist in the warehouse anymore, and then I gave up. And it's back, which is kind of fun. So yeah, I've been really wanting to stock this one for a while. Actually, shout out to Trenny and C, who even did a video on this and asked why the Strath didn't carry it at the time on their video. So 2 years ago was Trenny and C. We've got it now. And if you don't know who Trenny and C are, they're a couple of local YouTube whiskey guys as well. Yeah, Highland Queen Majesty 14-year aged. So Highland Queen's a bit of a weird brand, really. It's I believe it was founded by the same guy that founded Glenmorangie. I know it was part of that company for a long time, mostly as a blended whiskey. And then a few years ago, it's separated and spun off, and it was under the same ownership as a distillery, which we'll get into in a second. And the blended whiskey still exists. We carried it for a while. It didn't honestly do great in our store. I think mostly just because we had better options in the same price range. As good as Highland Queen is, it's really hard to compete at the time against something like the Adelphi Dancy Man, which has been a perennial favourite here at the Strath. It has now been a little bit usurped by some other whiskies that are in that same price range. But back in that time, it was basically unless you were set on a brand like, Dewar's, Ballantyne's, Johnny Walker, if you were coming in looking for an inexpensive blended Scotch whiskey, that's what all of our staff were going to recommend, because it was absolutely everyone's favourite. We went through 200 or 300 bottles a year of that stuff. It was crazy back in sort of 2022. So yeah, when we brought Highland Queen, the regular blended whiskey, in, didn't do great. But I had always heard that their single malts were particularly good. And I'd also always heard that their single malts were probably Tullibardine, which is a great distillery. And we'll get into that a little bit more in a second. But yeah, Highland Queen Majesty, Highland single malt Scotch whiskey, aged 14 years. Product of Scotland, aged in oak casks. I don't know why brands put that on there. I mean, maybe I guess this is sort of has a bit of a target of people who are, whiskey is not their passion, it's just a drink that they enjoy. This is could be seen as a more beginner-friendly whiskey. So maybe there are people out there that don't know that Scotch whiskey is all matured in oak casks. But saying that on the bottle, it feels, I don't know, not useful. Although, then again, there is the whole marketing thing, the it's toasted thing on Lucky Strikes. They're all cigarettes are toasted. They just said that theirs were. So maybe more people buy this because it specifically says aged in oak on the front. Yeah, independent spirit, a true legend since 1561, Highland Queen Majesty. Who is the Highland Queen? Well, that would be Mary Queen of Scots. Which is always an awkward topic for an English person to talk about, because our Queen kind of captured the Scottish Queen and then killed her after 19 years of trapping her in a tower. It was a bit of a mad time in history. There's a bit of a write-up actually on the back of the bottle about it. Highland Queen has been produced in Scotland for over 100 years. It takes its name from Mary Queen of Scots, who reigned from 1561 to 1567, and was executed in 1587 on the order of Queen Elizabeth I, Queen of England. Awkward. Highland Queen Majesty 14-year-old Highland single malt is distilled in the Highland region. It is a rich malt with hints of vanilla and toffee, apples, while delicate cinnamon spice lingers gently on the tongue to finish. The results we leave with confidence to your judgment. So, sherry cask, which is always exciting. Tullibardine, I'm fairly certain on that. It's a good-looking whiskey. It's a nice-looking bottle, good presentation. I really do quite like the Mary Queen of Scots motif on the front. Yeah, sherry cask finish. And if it says finish, it probably means it was ex-bourbon before then. It could just be sherry refill casks to start with or something, but it's basically saying that if you're looking for cask influence on this whiskey, the most prominent one you're going to find is sherry, because whatever it was in before probably didn't impart too much. If it was specifically trying to say like that you're going to find bourbon casks influence, it would say like double casked or something, right? That's the sort of marketing lingo for, hey, look for both. So whatever it was in first was probably relatively tired wood, I guess, is the term that a lot of blenders would use. Yeah, lovely looking little whiskey. So let's open her up, see what we think. Ooh, good pop. So this is chill filtered, this is coloured, this is only 40%. So a lot of whiskey purists are going to turn their nose up at that. But as I've said many times on this channel, there is a time and a place for every style of whiskey, and every whiskey is someone's favourite. And if you're the kind of person that's not even going to try a whiskey, even if, especially if it's for free, just because it doesn't tick every box, then you're an idiot, frankly. Some of the best whiskies I've ever had in my life have been chill filtered and coloured, and low ABV. Some of the absolute worst whiskies I've had in my life have been cask strength and unchill filtered and uncoloured. It might be an indicator, but it's not be all or end all, you know? There's a time and a place for everything. Yeah. And so I'm trying to debate whether I give you like life advice that a nun gave me, dating advice specifically, actually, that a Belgian nun gave me. I should. It's actually my top-rated comment on Reddit. So a nun once gave me the advice of, when looking for a life partner, and this, from her perspective, this life partner was God, apparently. When looking for a life partner, the one that you should go with is not the one that ticks every box on your list of things that you look for in a person. It's the one that makes you throw that list away. And I feel the same way about whiskey. Don't go into it with a list of demands. Judge every whiskey on its own merits. And yeah, you'll see where you go. So that's what I'm going to do right now. It looks nice. I mean, I know that it's probably got fake colouring, but it still looks nice, frankly. It looks like it's going to be sherry cask. Now, I'm only going to be disappointed if I then go to smell it and it doesn't smell like it looks like it should smell. So let's find out. Well, it absolutely does. That instantly smells of sort of the filling of a very high quality mince pie. It's dried fruits and nuts, and as a little herbal, minty, no, not mint, but licorice, fennel, maybe? Orange peel, yeah, lots of candied orange, little grapefruit. Yeah, it's big, it's rich, it's complex, and it's undeniably sherry cask on the nose. So the fact that it looks like this, even if it is artificial, slightly artificial at least, it doesn't make me mad, because it's not trying to pretend to be something it's not. It's just emphasizing the thing that it is, you know? And one of the biggest reasons that whiskey companies will add colouring to a whiskey is not to try and trick the consumer, it's to try and have consistency. Because when you're, especially with smaller batches, if you're trying to make a whiskey that tastes the same, it sometimes between batches, it sometimes doesn't look the same, and that can be off-putting for consumers who don't know that whiskey is a purely analog creation. Just because you put X, Y, and Z into the machine doesn't mean you're always going to get the same answer out the other end. It's not a computer. It's a craft. So yeah, a lot of companies that do use caramel colouring, which is completely tasteless, by the way, and I've taken myself, I've done A/B testing blind to see if I can tell whether a whiskey's had caramel colouring added to it, and you can do it at home by buying your own caramel colouring and diluting it to the amount that Scotch whisky companies will do so. It doesn't do anything to the flavour. It really, really doesn't. So I don't care, frankly. I only care if it's trying to trick you. This isn't. Solid concentration of flavour up front that fades relatively linearly. I can still taste it, but it's lingering. It's not like a big, abrasive, full punchy flavour. It's not a sherry bomb, even though it has a lot of sherry flavour, simply because it's not a bomb. It's not aggressive. It's delicate. It's interesting. It's, dare I say, light in volume, heavy in complexity, if that makes sense. It has this beautiful, rustic old school Highland sherry. Like, if I didn't know for fairly certain this is a Tullibardine, and the reason that I'm fairly certain of that, by the way, is that in the International Wine and Spirits Competition of 2023, this scored 94 points by a panel of judges that included not one, but two Orders of the British Empire, Richard Paterson OBE, who's, if you don't know who Richard Paterson is, all you have to do is look on your GIF keyboard and search for Richard Paterson. You'll find a GIF of him swirling whiskey around and throwing it on the floor. He was... long-time master blender of Dalmore. And Jim Beveridge OBE, which is the best name in all of whiskey. Jim Beveridge was the master blender of Johnny Walker. So two people who know what they're doing with a consistent, blended, crowd-pleasing sort of selection of casks. And when that was submitted to the IWSCs, it was submitted specifically as Highland Queen Majesty 14-year-old Scotch malt whiskey, Tullibardine Distillery. You done screwed up there. If you were trying to keep it a secret, you kind of outed yourself. Oh, that is good, though. That is good. And I have to admit, it's good on a metric that I haven't revealed yet, and that metric is price. This is an absolute screaming deal at full price, and we've got it at 25% off. So we'll get to that towards the end of the video. So a little note on Tullibardine, now that we know for fairly certain that this is Tullibardine. Interesting link between Tullibardine Distillery and the Highland Queen branding story. Because Tullibardine, the official bottlings, which are also excellent, by the way, they all have a rather semi-insincere date on the front, 1488, which makes no sense because that's long before like the earliest recorded history of Scotch whisky. So it wasn't founded in 1488. It does feel a little disingenuous, but it is a very interesting, cool story as to why that 1488 is there. The site of Tullibardine Distillery formerly was a brewery, and there's records in 1488 of that brewery existing. And it's the brewery which King James IV specifically requested to cater his coronation. King James IV, Mary Queen of Scots' grandfather. So there's a fun link. Now, kind of makes you wonder, like, did they carry on that tradition? Like, maybe James V also had beer from there for his coronation? Not sure. I'm fairly sure, though, that Mary Queen of Scots did not, because whilst I'm sure there was no legal drinking age back then and lots of kids were drinking beer at a quite young age, Mary Queen of Scots was 6 days old when she took the throne, so she was probably just on milk. I'm guessing. Great, interesting distillery. It was founded in 1949. It was the first distillery in Scotland to be opened after World War II. So it's the oldest of the new distilleries, if that makes sense. We've had some epic bottlings from the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, from Tullibardine, and we might have more coming soon. It's a solid Highland whisky. In fact, a lot of the SNWS ones we had in the early days from Tullibardine were really sort of like this, but cask strength. There was one that had a Star Wars-y name. It was like something Dark Side. which I'm just realizing now is a reference to Star Wars meme, I think. Something dark side. But yeah, there was definitely a Star Warsy, spacey themed Tullibardine released in the SNWS, which was excellent. Yeah, I'm happy with this whiskey. I think this is a perfectly, to steal a word from The Simpsons, which I've just found out isn't actually in the dictionary yet, and we need to get it there. So everyone use the word cromulent as much as possible. It's a perfectly cromulent, perfectly serviceable sort of Scotch whiskey that is approachable for beginners, but complex enough that if I was to go to someone's house and they poured me a dram of this, I would not complain one bit. In fact, if I saw it on a shelf, I might even request it, depending on what else is on the shelf. And I've had a lot of whiskey. Like a lot of whiskey in my time. Yeah, it's nice. It is nice on occasion, as someone who does generally favour cask strength whiskey. It's nice to have a couple of non-cask strength whiskies in the house for guests, but also for when you're in the mood for it. That's the wonderful thing about whiskey, is it doesn't go bad. You can crack open a bottle and keep it on the shelf for years and years, and the more whiskies you have open on the shelf, don't have a collection, have a selection. It's a much better way of doing it. Just dip in, and sometimes you're not in the mood for a cask strength whiskey. Sometimes you're in the mood for a lower ABV, just easy sipping, don't think about it, sherry cask like this. Other whiskies that if you're a fan of, you might enjoy this. I would say things along the lines of Glenmorangie La Santa, if you're a fan of that. Maybe Aberlour 12. Maybe even the old, or even the new Glendronach's, Glendronach 12. This is similar-ish in style to that. Again, slightly lower ABV. This is straight 40. There's a lot of those that'll be 42. This is, perfectly wonderful whiskey. How I would designate this, so in Whiskey Folk, our club, we have 5 different flavour profiles that we try and allocate to a whiskey. And there will be an official Whiskey Folk score and flavour profile after this has been sampled by our members in store. But if I was to fill out one of those sample cards right now, I would say that this is rich and round. Other options are fresh and floral, fruity and spicy, malty and dry, and smoky and earthy. I think this is definitely solidly in the rich and round idea. I personally think that the IWSC was a little high, giving it 94 points. I think out of 5, I would probably say this is a 3.9, maybe a 4. However, that's where the price comes in. This is a steaming bargain at $95.57 for a 14-year aged single malt, sherry cask single malt. We've got it right now at an incredibly special price, and it might have something to do with the fact that it was trapped in a warehouse for a couple of years and no one could access it. Who knows? At 25% off. So you can jump online right now to strathliquor.com, or you can just come in store and have a sample of it and pick up a bottle in person at $71.68. That's $71 for a 14-year-old single malt. That's damn impressive. Yeah, by anyone's metric, that is impressive in BC pricing. Yeah, for those of you watching around the world, this is Canadian dollars. We are in BC, so we're fighting against the tax man here. But that's a solid price for this whiskey in this market. And for anywhere else that has Highland Queen in the market, I would recommend seeking out the Majesty. If you've had the Highland Queen regular blend and you're looking at this and going, maybe the blend was okay, this is a solid improvement from the blended whiskey. The blended whiskey is a fine blended whiskey. This is a good single malt, especially at the price that you can find it at. I have absolutely no idea what's going on in the alleyway behind me. It sounds like 13 people are skateboarding down there right now. I don't know if the microphone's picking it up. Yeah, wild. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I look forward to seeing some of you in store and at our upcoming tastings soon. Our upcoming tastings are awesome. We've got a Blackadder tasting coming up. We've got a tournament of tequilas coming up. I've just announced a Malts of Asia tasting in September. We've got a signatory tasting coming up in September as well that hasn't been announced yet. As soon as I know for sure when the whiskey's arriving, I'll put that up on the calendar as well. What else is new? We're about to launch our first ever Campbellton single cask here at the Strath, which is exciting. We've got a Glen Scotia single cask. It's almost here. There's something else exciting happening right now as well. We've finally we have a great working relationship with Ardbeg now, which is something that I've been working on with for years. And although they screwed up our Ardbeg day order for this year, and it went somewhere else by accident because they forgot to change the paperwork they were using, they've made it up to us. We have some absolutely stunning Ardbeg available right now that I did not think we'd get because it's a couple of years old at this point. But I distinctly remember enjoying when their brand ambassador, Whisky Bry, shout out to Whisky Bry, was in town. The Bizarrebecue has landed here at the Strath, and you can pick up a Bizarrebecue right now. In fact, that's also a great price for the market. Pick up a Bizarrebecue, throw one of these in for an extra $70. Have a happy pair of whiskies, one that you can drink yourself if you're a big fan of big cask strength peaty whiskies, and one for your guests to enjoy when they're over as well, or vice versa. Who knows? Different flavors for different whiskey folk, I guess. Slant Shavat. I'll see you on the next one. Stay well.
Find your way home. Your